Could you start by explaining to me about when you first developed breathing problems?
About 2002, I developed a cough and I was diagnosed with asthma. And I've had asthma before. And my asthma became really uncontrollable about 7 years ago. And sort of so much so that I had to have go to the doctors constantly. And I was prescribed sort of steroids because my asthma medication couldn't control my asthma. And then that would alleviate my asthma for a few weeks. And then I'd have to go back to the doctors.
So when you developed the asthma,
Yeah.
did you notice that there was any difference in your symptoms on days at work and days away from work?
When I was at work, which was predominantly 6 to 7 days a week, sort of my asthma was always out of control. I'd cough quite a lot. I couldn't sleep correctly. I sort of couldn't breathe correctly, and sort of always felt sort of in a state of high tension.
Did you wheeze?
Quite a lot, yes, yes,
And did you use a blue inhaler or a reliever inhaler?
I did, yes.
And how often would you use it on a day
I
at
probably
work?
use it 20 times a day, not sometimes more.
And on the days when you weren't at work, what were your symptoms like then?
My symptoms were sort of not as bad, if you like. And when I was on holiday, my symptoms were sort of much lower, really.
Tell me what sort of work you were doing at the time.
I was working as a chef, sort of obviously in various kitchens, and most companies, catering companies, have really good policies and sort of give you sort of PPE, protective equipment. I've also worked for private contractors or private companies that gives you no PPE. For my last 5, 6 years, I had no PPE. I was never supplied.
How long do you think it was from the time at which your asthma became uncontrolled and was bad at work
Yeah,
until you got referred and seen in the Birmingham Chest Clinic?
2 years, but part of that was I was at Shrewsbury Hospital. They did various tests, but they couldn't sort of they couldn't pinpoint what my asthma, how it would fluctuate or how it would sort of how they couldn't control it. So I was recommended that I go to Birmingham Chest Clinic, and that's when I was diagnosed with industrial asthma. Or the thought that some of the triggers was where I was working, the environment I was working in, obviously, be it using clean solution, be it using flour, be it using certain spices.
And what did they do for you at Birmingham Chest Clinic to try and get closer to a diagnosis?
That sort of what they did was they did lots of tests. They asked me to do sort of peak flows. So I did peak flows for months really, and sort of to find out how my sort of asthma was out of control at work and how it would be more controlled on my days off. And they also asked me to keep a food diary of what I was using. So if I was using flour, if I was using ginger, if I was using garlic, black pepper, cumin, asafoetida or whatever, I would have to write it down and then and then they'd sort of look and see if they could find to pinpoint what the predominant factors were. But obviously, using quite a lot of products in any or a small environment, and they couldn't pinpoint a particular product really.
You obviously had very uncontrolled asthma at
Yeah,
that point at the
yeah.
start of the pandemic. What happened during the pandemic in terms of your work and in terms of your asthma?
So all through the pandemic, I didn't work at all. I was completely isolated because I was diagnosed with severe asthma. I couldn't work anywhere. My restaurant was closed, and my asthma was probably much more controlled in that time.
And what impact did that have on your work life?
And well, obviously, if you're doing things that you think that you know are unsafe for yourself, but obviously because of financial pressures, you continue working until you find a new job, and then obviously you find a new job, and then you tell the people in your next job what your problems are, and then people can think, yes, I can help this person. And if you're sort of quite upfront with what your problems are, most companies or most individuals, be it private or be it, a multi company, are sort of more sympathetic sometimes. You know, but the sort of problems are sometimes people work in their environment that they know isn't safe for them, but obviously they're under so much financial pressure that they have to continue working in that environment. That they told me that I had industrial asthma, and then recommended that I sort of go to Heartlands Hospital, because Heartlands Hospital had a sort of uh, project that I think could help me alleviate my asthma, and and I had an injection of a drug, and that drug completely, absolutely alleviated my asthma, controlled it completely.
And after you were diagnosed with industrial asthma at the chest clinic, did they give you any advice about work?
And if my environment was not conducive to my health, to sort of either speak to my management and or to my owners, and see if they would help me, or go for a different employer, or that would help me. It sort of help me work in a much more safer environment. My first company, my owners wouldn't didn't encompass in any way, shape or form, weren't interested. But my last employers were much more helped me work in a much more safer environment.
And did you get any advice about financial support that you could get because you had a diagnosis of industrial asthma?
Claimed for industrial injuries benefit. At the moment, I'm in a process, or have been for the past 6 years, I think, of suing my previous employer for obviously not giving me the correct working environment, the correct sort of equipment to work in that environment, or sort of not being sort of conducive or helpful with my sort of complaint.